right, good morning and greetings from Crossroad Christian Ministries, where our lead apostle and teacher is Apostle Cheryl. I am Sister Danielle, coming to you as the orchestrator or leader of First Training. I tried to tell my peoples in here that I'm not going to be before you all long, and I really hope I am not, but I had to give you what God is giving into me. The first thing that we're going to talk about is just a directive, an encouragement, because God is telling us this from, I believe, every corner and recess of his heart. But he's telling us just to settle our spirits. I don't know what is happening in the minds and the hearts of the believers, but God allowed me to know on this week that we must settle our spirit. And God is watching. And I'm going to tell you the two things that God downloaded into me for me to tell you all that. First of all, settling of your spirit. I really don't want to talk about this, but I have to touch on this for you all to understand what I'm talking about. And it's the COVID-19, the coronavirus. Now, I'm not going to give this much credence at all. Like I said, I just have to touch on this so you all understand what I'm talking about. We all know what's happening. We all heard the stories. I'm pretty sure, read the news articles. We've watched the news. We've looked at the media outlets. We understand that they have declared, I guess, the entire America in the state of emergency because a pandemic is upon us, blase, blue. And I understand that people have, lost their lives. I understand that people have been quarantined. I understand that people have fallen ill, whatever the case may be. But God, as I was really thinking about this and meditating, God allowed me to understand two things from this. I was reading from this that in Birmingham, I believe it was, and different other parts of Alabama, they are allowing the people who got their water shut off for their water to be reconnected at this time. They don't have to pay for a reconnection fee. They do have to pay for the water that is being used, but they are getting their water turned back on. That was one thing. And then I think it was in New York and other parts of America where they're staying off putting people out of their homes, and they're not allowing people to become evicted at this time due to the virus. And so I was thinking about that and how people would be like, well, it's a conspiracy. A lot of people think that it's because Trump is trying to get reelected, he allowed this to happen, or they're trying to start a war on America with our enemies, and that's the reason why it happened. But I'm inclined to believe things like this happen for the believers, and I'm going to tell you why. Believers, I believe, have boxed God up in this box, and they make him just one-sided, one-dimensional, because we understand, or we believe we understand the difference between good and evil, right and wrong, pleasant and unpleasant, comfort and discomfort. We think that because God is who he is, that even in bad situations, there is no good. But there is a good. And he allowed me to understand the good by allowing me to read about the people getting their water turned back on and families not being evicted from their homes, because God supplies what we need. We need water and we need shelter. So from that, how do we not know, even though a lot of things that we would deem negative has happened due to the virus, how do we not know the people that he saved from being out on the street will not turn to him, if they have not turned to him already, and allow others to know what God has done? How do we not know that he's not building a nation that will obey, a nation that will praise him, a nation that will understand nobody but God did this for me, and will not be fearful to tell somebody else the goodness of Jesus? Not be fearful to tell somebody else and testify what God has done for them, that somebody else may believe. That even in the midst of confusion, trial, calamity, this virus, that God still is good. Because I did not have the money to pay to get my water turned back on. I did not know where me and my family was going to live if they would have evicted us from our home. I don't know how we would have been sustained if this had not been so. But I know I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't have the power to do it, but God did it. And that testimony alone, if spoken to the right person, will allow that person's heart to turn to God, that they may be saved. Then, that's the pleasantry of it. God allowed me to see that He is watching us. And because He is watching us, He is not pleased with what is going on. I saw, because I'm a social media person, I saw on social media where these people were in the Walmarts, the Costco's, the different grocery places, and their buggies were stacked full. One person stacked full of what people thought that they needed because they thought that they would not be able to go back out and get these things. One person I saw where their buggy was stacked full of paper towels, tissue, and water, noodles, and all the other stuff. And I just looked. They couldn't even hardly see in front of themselves because the buggy was stacked, or shopping cart, whatever you want to call it, was stacked so high, filled with these things. And I just looked, and people are getting into altercations. People are fighting one another. People are trying to hit. One person got stabbed. I saw where they stabbed him. They had to call the paramedics for him and wheel him out of the Costco. God is watching us, and God said He's not pleased. Why? Because we are being inconsiderate, we are being evil, and we're being selfish. How is it that you understand that you need these things for you and your family, and not understand that somebody else also needs these things for them and their family? How is it that you go and stack your buggy to the ceiling to heap all these things upon your own lust, and understand that you're not the only person here on earth that needs these same things that you're stacking? Then God reminded me of the time where, and I want to say this because preparation is good. Do not get me wrong. Preparation is, He even told the children of Israel before they left for their exodus to prepare for the journey, because the journey was going to be great. He gave them specific instructions to complete before He allowed them to leave Egypt. So I understand preparation is one thing, and what we have to do, but there's a big difference between fear and caution. There's a big difference between preparing and being selfish. Whenever they were in the wilderness, after they were delivered from Egypt, they were murmuring and they were complaining against God, saying how they were hungry. They was murmuring, complaining against Moses, rather, but inadvertently that was against God. And they were saying how they were hungry and how they remember in Egypt, even though they were under this hard taskmaster, they still had food and things of that nature. So what God allowed them to do was, He allowed the dew of the morning to fall. And after the dew dissipated, manna was left. And so He allowed them to go out and collect the manna. But He gave specific instructions. He said, collect for you and everybody in your tent. And that's it. Collect enough for you and everybody in your tent for that time. And you had some that went out and collected much. And you had some that was obedient and collected the amount that they were supposed to collect. Later on in the word, you see where the ones that collected much suffered lack, but the ones that collected what they were supposed to collect did not suffer lack. I said this to say this. I said that, to say this. God said for the ones, and I pray it's not for anybody in here, but for the ones that are listening and maybe participated in the state of emergency grocery shopping, where you went and you heaped everything and you didn't think about the next person, you didn't think about your neighbor, you didn't think about the elderly, you didn't think about your brother, you didn't think about your sister, you didn't think about anybody else but you and your household. God said, because you collected much you will suffer lack. Because of the evilness, because of the selfishness, because of the inconsideration, because you only thought about yourself, you are going to suffer lack. I don't know where the lack is going to be, but lack is going to be in your house. It's going to be either, with your children, with your husband, with your wife, with your work, with your finance. I don't know how God is going to do what he's going to do, but I stand assured on the word that God has placed in my heart to give to you because of the evilness and the spirit in which you did what you did. It's not going to accomplish everything that you got to bring into your home. It's not going to accomplish what you needed to do, and you will suffer lack for it. And that is the two things that I got from the coronavirus. Other than I am protected because I pray and I ask God to protect me, and I believe that God is going to protect me, so I don't have to go out and I don't have to clean out the Walmart, I don't have to clean out the Costco, I don't have to worry about me and just myself. I can go and I can see the needs of others, look to the things of others, and be okay with it because I know that God is my supply. I also got that, but that's just for me. Antiku, is it God good? You don't have to agree with me because I already know that he is. We often say here, well, Apostle says, and I am in total agreement with it, that God is a strategic God. He is so calculating to the point where whenever hindsight hits you, you'd be like, oh my, I'd be like, oh my goodness. Right there is when you told me this for right here. So with that being said, before the COVID became a thing, God gave us a series of words. He gave it to me first, and I so kindly, politely shared it with you all, and I am so happy because of the strategy that God's given. First, God told me, all news is good news. And maybe I won't be long because I'm almost done. Okay. And then he gave us fear not. Then he gave me God is faithful. Speaking on the holiness of God. Speaking on what allows God to be God, remain God consistently is his holiness. So because of those things, and I was just meditating on the goodness of Jesus to us, to me, to us as a collective. God was like, I gave you all those things. You're supposed to eat them. You're supposed to digest them. You were supposed to grow and live by them. When things come like calamity is striking upon you, you're supposed to take those things and regurgitate those things, and they're supposed to come up in you and spring forth into a tree of life and gives you sustenance and give you the hope that you need to keep moving. And I was like, yes, Lord. He was like, then riddle me this. This is the question he asked me. So I'm going to ask you all that. But don't answer me. Do not answer me. Because I gave God my own private answer, and I want you all to give God your own private answer too. But I'm going to tell you what to consider when answering the Lord. So he said, after I've given you, and that's just some of what he's given to us, because he's given us things through our apostle where it says, all faith and all God, no fear. All these things that he has given to us to bridle us and to keep us from fearing. Yes, after giving us all those things, why do we need a reason to listen to reason? If I've supplied, if I've given, if I've made a way, if I've opened doors of knowledge to you that you can walk in and be wise in applying this, why do you still need a reason to listen to reason? Now, this reason means a cause, an explanation, or a justification to see something. This reason means the power of the mind. I did not want to go any further. Because isn't that something? The power of the mind. But I got to go because this is what the definition means. To think, to understand, and form judgments. So why do I need a cause or a justification to use the power given to me to recognize who I am in God? Why do I need a cause or a justification to realize that all news is good news, to fear not, and that God is faithful? And the type of God that he is, because he understands that I'm the type of person, and I think there's other people that are like me, that need the basis of the written word of God, the unadulterated word of truth, to go with whatever the Rhema word is or what he's given to us at this point. Because if you tell me something and I can't find it in the word, I'm not apt to believe what you were saying. But God showed me in the word, 2 Thessalonians 3:3, but the Lord is faithful. So you know I didn't make it up. You realize I didn't just pull this from out of the sky. This is what God gave me. But the Lord is faithful. Even though he's talking about his holiness. But he's a faithful Lord who shall establish you, give you the power to think in your mind, and keep you from evil. That's why I don't have to fear COVID-19. Because I'm established in the power of who I am. I'm telling you, once God gave me the power to know who I am so dangerous. Do you hear? You can't tell me nothing. When I tell you absolutely nothing, I had somebody speak over my life this week, and they were absolutely letting the devil use them. They tried to tell me something about my love life that God did not say. Trying to give me a cause and an explanation with no justification at all, because Christ is the one that justifies me, to make me think in my mind something that God did not say. And I had to go back to what Tony had told us. He was like, you got to forgive certain people and what they say. Whenever they call you certain things, it's due to the fact that they have a limited vocabulary. And that really has stuck with me. You call me crazy because you don't know how to say I am a chosen generation. That's not in you to say. You don't have that in you to say. So the only thing that's in you to say is crazy.
All right.
So I forgive you for your limited vocabulary.
All right.
You don't know how to say that I am a royal priesthood.
Come on.
So all you say is crazy.
Come on.
But I forgive you for your limited vocabulary. Because what I'm going to stand in and what I'm going to walk in is what God said I am.
There you
That's
go.
right.
I'm going to believe the report of the Lord. So you come with your life. Stuff like that gets me tickled now. I seen a time, crazy, your mammy crazy, your pappy, I would go in. I'm talking about everybody, dead or living, they are crazy. I can't, but I tell God thank you. Because even in this, it's a settling. That's a settling of my spirit. Like Christ told us to do, settle your spirit. So I forgive you for your limited vocabulary. I forgive you for trying to talk over me and say something that God did not say. Because I'm going to have everything that God said without cause, explanation, or justification, because Christ is the one that justifies me. I also want you all to look, somebody really quickly get this for me, Proverbs 23:7. And I just need the part right before the punctuation. I don't know if it's a semicolon or a comma. But stop at is.
Start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning and stop at is.
For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is.
Is he? Okay, stop at he.
Okay.
One more time.
For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Whatever you think in your mind, which is your heart, so will you be. Pray for the mind of Christ, that you can think in your mind what Christ says you are, what Christ says you can be, what Christ says you can have. And you don't have to have a reason to do that because you have the mind of Christ. But oftentimes, we don't like to do what I like to call, and what even the word calls, is have memorials. We don't have memories of what God has done for us, where God has brought us from. Anytime something arises that is, not comfortable, anytime something arises that makes us feel like we're going through something, anytime we have a test, a trial, or tribulation, we don't go to the place in us where the memorial is, where God, we understand. And all of us, I don't care from the top to the bottom, from the eldest to the youngest in here, we have all experienced something that God has brought us out of, and we understood that it was nobody but God who did it. I don't care what it is. And you can think in your mind to that time. Maybe right now because there's not, anything bad happening. But we have to get to a place as believers to understand that even in the bad, we have to go to a place of memory. We have to go back to memorials. We have to understand that if God delivered me from this, and I know it's cliche, but it is the unmitigated truth. If God delivered me from this at this time, then I understand that he is still that same God. He has not changed, and he can do the same thing for me at this time. But we don't do that. And because we don't do that, God gives us a reason to listen to reason. God gives us things that causes us now to go back and understand that he is faithful. You better tell me he is faithful, that we don't have to fear, that all news that we get is good news. Because you know what then happens? Trials come. He starts messing with your finances to get you to listen to reason. He starts doing things to get your mind stayed on him. He starts making your husband act up. He starts making your wife act up. He starts making your children act up. He starts making the person on the job that gives you heartache and pain. They start messing with you. You can't even go to the store and get you some tissue without getting stabbed. All these things that he is allowing to happen to get you to listen to reason. And this listen here is having an ear to hear, to hearken, and to obey. Not just to hear something good, let it tickle your spirit, tickle your soul a little bit, and then you go and do whatever you want to do. But be steadfast to establish you so that he can keep you from evil. So that he can keep you from the things that come, these reasons, these causes, now that he sends, he can keep you from this so you can stay in reason. You can stay in the power of your mind to think appropriately, to understand appropriately, and to form better judgments. And what are better judgments? Make better decisions. I'll never forget, I had a god baby. Brilliant, so intelligent, but bad. I'm talking about really, 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 really bad. And anyways, whenever he would do something that I knew he knew better than to do, I would sit him down because I couldn't spank this one, and I would say, now you told me that you was going to make better decisions. Mm-hmm. And even though he was young, he understood that. He understood that the decision that he made was contrary to the one that he said that he would make. So I was like, you got to make better decisions. I said, because if you don't, you're going to get a punishment. You're going to receive a disciplinary action that you may not want. So what we have to do, just like my God baby, we have to learn how to make better decisions. Because if we don't, God will bring these causes, and then in the cause he will explain to you why he brought these to you, just to justify you through Christ, so that you can start thinking better as a believer. So you can start believing with the mind of Christ who you are in him. So you can overcome things. So you don't have to sit and wait, but you can go forth and do what God has commanded you to do, has purposed you to do. So you can push forth in your purpose and in your vision to complete and fulfill what God has called you to do. Because why? God is in control. He's the preparer of my soul. He gives me the daily bread that I need. I don't have to do all manner of extra stuff to get a reason. All I have to do is just listen, hearken, and hear, and obey. reason. The word, the encouragement, the affirmations, the call, whatever it is, the daily verse that you have, whatever it is God gives you to seek after, that we may be pliable, because that was my, through it all, that was my prayer on this week. Apostle has led this prayer movement at our training center here, and it really has stirred up the gift that was in my soul, within me, for real, showing up. And I didn't realize I knew how to pray until these past couple of weeks. But when I tell you, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but Sister Girl can pray. Do you hear me? So my prayer for this week was from the lesson that we had on last Tuesday, or was it Sunday? I'm not real sure, but we have to make ourselves pliable, that we can be moved out of the box that we have God in and ourselves in, and understand that there is a way, but there may be multiple ways to get to that way. There is an answer that God wants to give, but it may not come in the form that I believe the answer should come. But it does not make it any less of an answer. It does not make it any less of God, because I now have moved my formulation out of the way and allow God to have his way. Any way, shape, form, or fashion, however he wants to do it. And any way he wants to do it. Just like with the virus, we can say, oh, woe is me, Poe is this and Poe is that. But how do I not know he sent that virus to get people water? How do I not know he sent that virus to keep people in shelter? How do I not know he's not raising up a nation, a generation that shall obey from the virus? But if I keep my mind one-sided, one-dimensional, or try and keep God in a box, I would charge God foolishly. And that is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be transformed by the renewing of my mind. But that is it. You all have a blessed evening. I'm so glad you all tuned in. I pray that you were not one of the ones that didn't try and help your brother, but if you are, I'm praying for your soul. Amen.